This is another MetaTalk.
Don't you hate it when you're in line at a new restaurant or a new takeaway place and you just can't figure out what you want? And then all of a sudden you're at the counter and you can feel the annoyance of everyone behind you, but still nothing comes out. It was when I first started going to uni that I heard of the idea of the liminal, of being so completely in between two places that you're not in either of them. And, you know, being an artist, at first I immediately decided to try and explain it as something really deep and beautiful, but I realized lately that it's not. It actually kind of sucks, really, because it's just indecision wrapped up in a nice name. But it got me thinking, freaking out really, that there were a lot of liminal spaces in my life. But that was a selfish thought because it's not just me. This is happening to everyone. But why? Why is it that we're all so caught up in our own indecisiveness? I think I've nailed it down to two things. One, choice will seduce you, and two, indecision will trap you. What you have to do is make up your mind. When you're young, the world is a great place. It's full of possibilities, and everyone tells you you can be anything you want to be, and all that potential is exciting. In fact, any potential is exciting, even now. But the problem is you can become saturated in the potential of choices, and that will seduce you. Recently, behavioural scientists conducted a study in which 2 sample tables were set up, one with 24 jars of jam and the other with 6. Shoppers were given a reward of a voucher for 1 jar of any of the jams they sampled. And while many, many more shoppers approached the display of 24 jams, only 3% of the vouchers were used. Wow. And while there were far fewer shoppers who approached the display with 6 jams, over 30% of the vouchers were used. Wow. Now, this tells us something completely opposite to what we've been taught to believe. That choice isn't always a good thing. That choice will seduce you, but leave you unable to choose. With other studies just like this popping up all over the place, a pattern can start to be seen. It's pretty clear that we need to narrow our field of vision when it comes to choice, because too much of it leads to indecision. Do you remember that moment when they finally asked you to choose what you wanted to do with your life? Did you freeze? Think of all the hours wasted in thought, conversation, and second-guessing yourself. Now, I'm not saying that thinking things through is a bad thing, but I'm sure in that moment it seemed like the easiest thing to do was decide later, put it off. But indecision is a decision, and it will trap you. That total shutdown we experience when we're unable to make a choice can sort of feel like our bodies are just telling us to let it be. I can't tell you how many times I've been really hungry and I couldn't decide what to eat, so I just gave up. But who knows, 20 minutes later, I'd be going between the pantry and the fridge again. You see, we get stuck in this cycle of indecision because it's easy, but it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't solve anything. We'll put something off if we don't want to deal with it, but it doesn't go away. What's worse is that indecision is so easy we can get into the habit where we'll resort to it every time we don't want to face a problem. Remember the word liminal that I mentioned earlier? Well, this is where it comes into play. When we're indecisive, we get stuck in between 2 decisions, caught in their liminal space. And it's in that liminal space that both decisions are possible, but neither will come to pass. Gordon Graham once said, "Decision is a sharp knife that cuts clean and straight. Indecision, a dull one that hacks and tears and leaves ragged edges behind it." When indecision traps you, the only way out is to make up your mind. It may seem like an obvious enough statement to make up your mind, but I can't stress enough just how vital it is to our lives. In school, I always thought it was a bit ridiculous that they would expect a kid to decide and start planning for what they wanted to do with their lives. But it occurred to me that maybe it isn't about all that grooming for the potential of our choices. Maybe it's about learning to make a decision. if this is the case, then you will all already know what to do. You've been taught how your whole lives. You will know that in order to live, you need to know how to make a decision, even if it's the wrong one. So why do we keep acting like we've never done it before? Fear. Fear holds us back from a lot of things, but perhaps the most frightening thing about it is that it stops us from making decisions. They say one bad decision takes 9 good decisions to correct. But what happens in those decisions is movement. I would much rather move around a little bit than remain stagnant in my indecision, wouldn't you? Yeah. You see, decision is freedom. So what are you waiting for? Make up your minds. It's a horrible thing to not know what to do, to be caught in the middle of decision. Too much choice will take you there, so narrow your field of vision so that you're not seduced by it, because it only leads to you being trapped. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Decision is freedom. So go on, people. Make up your minds.
This has been another Metamorphic production.